Well, we are in Psalm 131, and I want to encourage you to open your Bible with me. We're kind of moving into another section of this psalm. This entire psalm is 24 verses, and we are at about verse 8 right now. The background, the context is that David is in trouble, and he's going to tell us that today. This is likely at the end of his life. The descriptions and the circumstances he seems to be facing align with the time that his son Absalom betrayed him and tried to usurp his authority and assume the kingship, the throne of Israel. Absalom wasn't to be the next king. Solomon was to be. And so David was failing in his... He had failed in some practical ways in life, but also his age was starting to fail him. His health was starting to fail him. And we'll see that today as well. So as he comes towards the end, he's in another bad place. And he's familiar with bad places, but probably getting worn down by them. And there's probably someone listening to me right now that can identify with that. You just come to this place, you're just like, I'm ready to go. Kind of like we're all getting worn down with the COVID restrictions. It's like I'm literally at the place now where I would rather have COVID than live a locked down life. Whatever the outcome would be. This locked down world and this rule by executive order is not living, in my opinion. But that's my personal view of it. I'm sure there's science behind why we need to be cautious and careful and respectful towards others' concerns. I get that. My struggle is the science keeps changing, right? And the narrative keeps changing too. At first we were going to flatten the curve to not overwhelm the hospitals, and then we were going to save lives. And now you don't hear about either of those. You don't hear about the death rate or the hospital saturation. Now all you hear about is the numbers of cases. The media just can't camp on one thing. I think that's because death rates are going down, and so that's not as alarming as it was. And so now they've got to keep the alarm high by moving the narrative, shifting the narrative. But with each shift of the narrative, I think their efforts grow weaker. And I think the American population is probably getting tired of it all. Most people I talk to are. So David's probably getting tired of the hardship in his life and really would like to be delivered from it all. And that's what the first 7 verses are really him crying out to God, declaring his trust, choosing to be glad and rejoice in spite of his trouble, knowing that God knows his trouble and knows his soul, knows what's going on within him. And look at verse 8. This is where we pick it up today. It's kind of mid-sentence. He says, I will be glad and rejoice in thy mercy, for thou hast considered my trouble and hast known my soul in adversities, and hast not shut me up into the hand of the enemy. Thou hast set my feet in a large room. Now this is interesting because David said in verse 4 that he's in a net. And now he's implying in verse 8 that he's in the hand of his enemy. So there's similarities there. The trap or the conspiracy that's against him, he's in the hand of his enemy. But the picture here is the hand hasn't closed yet. It hasn't. He's there, and it's like his enemy is waiting to just, hold and grab him inescapably. David says, I'm in a hard place, but it's not inescapable. It's not permanent. I'm not locked in indefinitely. God's going to get me out of this. And then he says, thou hast set my feet in a large room. And that idea is, okay, if a parent is in a crowded space with a young child or a dangerous space with a young child, the parent will pick that child up, okay, to protect them from the dangers, okay? David's saying, I'm in the midst of danger. I'm even in a trap or a net. It hasn't sprung yet. It hasn't snared yet. But then he says, God, you've set my feet in a large room. Now picture that same parent once they get away from the danger or back home into a safe space, into a room of the home where the child can run and play freely, or a wide open, yard where the children can run and play freely. The parents have made it a safe space. Maybe they've built a fence. Maybe they've put a little play set or something like that, or a pool or something. And the parent sets the child down and says, go play. Go run. You're safe. You're free. That's kind of the idea that I have in mind when David says, you've set my feet in a large room. It's the reality of safety and liberty and protection and provision and freedom in a safe space. And David says, I feel like I'm in a net. I feel like I'm in my enemy's hands. But I know in reality, Lord, you have actually set me. You've placed my feet. You've grounded me in a large, safe space. Why is that so powerful? There's almost this duality here. There's almost this dual existence. Okay, and both are very real. Both are legitimate. There's like a reality and a temporality and an eternality, if I can say it that way. Okay, there's the horizontal, physical, earthy view, and then there's the promised heavenly, long-term view. There's the physical, temporary moment where David feels vulnerable, but then there's the deeper spiritual and yet very real. Sometimes we use the word spiritual. It's almost like it's not real. Okay, it is real. Okay, it's just yet to be fully realized or fully experienced. So David says, I feel right now like I'm shut up, or like I'm about to be shut up in the hand of my enemy. But really, you've set me in a large place, God, and I know that, and I trust you. I'm anticipating that. What David's doing is preaching to himself through prayer, through journaling, through Psalms. He is reasoning the realities of God out loud to God and driving them deep into his own psyche and heart and preserving them in print for future generations, including us. Well, when you get to verse 9, there's about 9 or 10 verses here that are like section 2 of the psalm. And I want to read them with you, and then I'll probably just call it for today. But let this sit with you. David now is going to, after saying, I'm going to spin around with joy, and I'm going to brighten up, cheer up, in verse 7, be glad and rejoice. That's what those two words mean. We studied that yesterday. He's now going to kind of pour out his experiences, his practical, temporal, physical reality. And it's hard to read. He's bearing himself. He's pouring out his heart in a safe way to God. But here's what I want you to get today. Verses 1 through 8, he grounded himself in a trust in God, in a safe promise claiming, you are my strength, you've redeemed me, here's who I am. He's preaching the gospel to himself, okay? And now in that safe room, in that large room, that safe space, he is going to kind of dump it all out, okay? We might call it venting. It's what it's what a lot of people do on social media. They just got to go somewhere with their reasoning, so they just spit it out on social media, which is never a good thing. You're never going to win an argument on social media. It's impossible. There's a law that says no arguments are ever won on social media. Because relationships don't really happen on social media. I mean, you can begin them, you can cultivate them, but it's really hard to. It's often in the hostile interactions. It's often just one person trying to win over another and win an argument. So David is now going to vent, but he's going to vent to God. And maybe vent is a strong word. He's just going to be honest. He's just going to be brutally honest about what he's dealing with, how he feels, what he's going through. And he begins by saying, have mercy. Have mercy upon me, O Lord, for I am in trouble. Now, everything he's going to say next is all the trouble that he's in, okay? The trouble that he's having. But I love how he begins, have mercy upon me, O Lord, for I am in trouble. And I don't know about you, but I have been in times in my life where that's about all I could say, where I didn't really even know what to pray. All I could do was tell God how I feel and ask Him to have mercy. Like, I don't know what to ask for because I don't know what I need, because I don't understand what's going on inside of me. It's complicated, it's complex. So David has already established, you know my trouble, and you know what's going on in my soul, in my inner man. You understand it. And you've set me in a safe place. So God, have mercy on me. I am in trouble. And maybe you need to pray that today. Okay, that's a really good prayer to pray. It's a safe prayer. It's a faith prayer. It's a God-honoring prayer. It's not a selfish prayer. You are just crying out to God. When you say have mercy on me, what you're saying is, God, give me what you know I need. I don't even know what I need. I don't even know what medicine I need or what ointment I need for my heart. God, you give me what you know I need. And then he begins to explain what he's facing. We'll break this down in future devotions. Mine eye is consumed with grief, yea, my soul and my belly. My life is spent with grief, my years with sighing. My strength faileth because of mine iniquity, and my bones are consumed. I was a reproach among all mine enemies, but especially among my neighbors, and a fear to mine acquaintance. They that did see me without fled from me. I am forgotten as a dead man out of mind. I'm like a broken vessel, for I have heard the slander of many. Fear was on every side. While they took counsel together against me, they devised to take away my life. So all the way up to there, he's just complaining. He's just chronicling his hardship. And I think I want to stop there, because then he turns a corner and he says, but. So that's kind of a transitional word, moving his mind and heart into a new place. But my times are in thy hand. Okay. Oh, this is such a great psalm. So maybe today you need to pray, Lord, have mercy on me. I'm in trouble. That's okay. Maybe today you need to chronicle your hardships to God, how you're feeling, what you're going through, what you're dealing with. He is very, very acquainted with what's going on in your heart and mind and soul. And if you are redeemed, he has set your feet in a large room. So take hope today in these realities, and follow the example of David and vent to God. Take your complaints to God. He will receive them. He will give you a new perspective on them, and he will lead you through them and hold you together all the while.